Hi. Thanks for coming this gorgeous day, very early in the morning. Hi, my name is Howard Wong. I'm with Fanatical. I'm one of the advisory member for Social Media Week Hong Kong, and we are very happy here today that you guys are here and to talk about this. And so today we're going to do a quick event on cloud computing and social network. Sounds a bit dorky, it is, but I'll let presenters today to talk about that. But we are fortunate enough to invite two very big name players in this space, one Rackspace and other Microsoft, to talk about this. What they do in this space, how they contribute to social network, and any cases they have. And then we're going to have a few presentations, just two. And then afterwards, we're going to wrap up with a Q&A panel. So if you have any questions, that will be a good time to ask them. And hope we're going to have a great event today. So I'm going to start it off. Oh, also, thanks for the folks here at the venue, and as well as APAC Asia and many others who help out to get this thing going. So with that said, I'm going to introduce Jim from Rackspace to you all. That's the round of applause then.
Good morning. Thanks for taking the time and getting up early and coming out. So what I will not do this morning is go through a massive technical diagram of how servers work through cloud and social media. So I think that would be a little bit more, maybe for some of you not. If that's the case, there's some Rackspace people back there that actually can do that for you. I certainly can. But what I'd like to talk about is social media and cloud. I think cloud's kind of, become a buzzword that kind of can be used to talk about everything these days. And then I think social media kind of the same way, anything online. And I think one of the reasons why they, in a way, get intermingled is because the reality is one really doesn't exist without the other. And what I mean by that is that if you think about social media, if you think about the devices you're using, if you think about all the activities going on this week, the tools that were available in IT and the scale 4 or 5 years ago and the cost for that really didn't allow for this. And social media, the aspect of that all this stuff has blown up, the world has gotten connected. There is a demand for this type of storage, these type of connections, these type of infrastructures, these type of devices. It's really at the end of it, just really, basically, you had companies like us, Microsoft and others, really go out and try to build these systems and make them work, which is actually accelerating the pace of cloud computing. So they really are completely tied together.
Just say next.
Next, please.
There you go.
So I'm not sure if you're familiar with Rackspace. I'll just do the quick intro because I don't want this to be a product thing. But really, if you look at us, we're a US-based company. All we do is infrastructure hosting. So if you think about that, all we do is run data centers and the systems and computing power and the service for our customers to create these internet-facing sites. That's all we do across the way. So we run 8 data centers around the world. We have a facility here in Hong Kong. That's our Asia Pacific footprint. We're about $1 billion of revenue. And more importantly, if you look at our customers, we actually have these just came out yesterday, we just announced. So we run 80,000 servers around the world where we support over 170,000 customers. And that is growing on customer count by about 35–40% a year. So if you think about scale and where we are as a company, we have to figure out how to support all these other companies, all these other customers. So for us, we're actually kind of ahead of the curve, having to figure out a lot of the challenges that all these social media companies and all these social media platforms and sites are figuring out now. And so really we are basically building them something that they can use on demand, focus on their product set, and deliver value as far as whether it's through their sites, their applications, and really connecting the world. Next, please. So back to now I'll just kind of circle back with, what is cloud, right? Because again, this thing has really gotten to the point now where I think this term, gets butchered quite a bit on, what is it, what defines it, what's the value of it. So really, that's really kind of one of the definitions up there is, it's computing resources that are basically provisioned on demand and really delivered via the internet. And if you look at this kind of diagram here, the way to think about it is, everyone's got their devices with them now, everybody's got different stuff. I want to basically be able to, no matter where I am in the world, no matter what device I'm on, be able to get what data, what information, talk to whatever people I want, in whatever form I want, and I want it unlimited, I want it on demand, and I want it now. And the reality is, if you think about that, putting the architecture together to make all that happen is really the cloud. And then what that comes down to is scale. You cannot do this stuff without scale. This is not 10 servers, it's not 100 servers, this is 70, 80,000 servers. This is, if you look at probably Google and Facebook, they run their own clouds with probably hundreds of thousands of servers. So if you look at it, this is really just a complete revolution. Social media has actually helped revolutionize, the way we think about computing and how we deliver it. Next. Right. So, so why is cloud computing a hot topic as far as investments of companies, and how has it changed, I think, in the last even 24, 36 months, not even the IT industry, but the startup industry, social media. It's really because of the benefits you get from it. And where this is also to back up when you think cloud doesn't necessarily mean you're going to Rackspace or Microsoft. Like I mentioned, Facebook runs all their own data centers because of their scale. But the technology they use is very similar to what we do. And they're doing that same thing, trying to get that unlimited provisioning, and they're trying to get these same benefits. So if you get low opportunity cost, if you're allowed to not have to, so if you think you're a startup, this CapEx to OpEx thing, instead of 8-10 years ago, if you were going to start a big e-commerce site or back then with social media site, you're going around venture capital funds going, I need 10 or 20 million just to go buy infrastructure before I even have a customer. Now you come to a company like us or Microsoft on their platform, and you go, here's $200 this month. I want to go build my platform and see if it works and see if I get customers. So it's completely lowered the barrier of entry for startups, for new ideas, for new applications, for app developers. So again, that's been one of the reasons why you'd say social media and cloud are very tied together, because they enable each other so well. And then finally, if you think about it also, if you look at resource perspective, again, this architecture stuff and how you deliver this is not easy. So based on that, what we allow with companies like ourselves, especially for smaller startup companies or even mid-sized global companies, we run the gamut. Like I said, Google and Facebook are at such a size where they can do their own. But if you look at some of the other large social media sites, if you look at companies like Zynga, for instance, they're still using companies like us and other cloud companies to go deliver their applications. Is really they can focus on their business, because we handle kind of all the boring stuff, so to speak. But the boring stuff is really important, because if what we do doesn't work, then nothing works. Next, please. And then just to give you an idea of some of the scale that we're talking about, and some of the growth, and some of the demand. So this is Facebook users since their inception. So how many users? So about 1 million in 2005. So that's up to 845 million. By 2012, if you look at it, started this year. But if you look at this, look at the steepness of that curve and where that's going, and then think about those 800 people. And that's not just 800 people that counts. If you look at some of the stats, they have 400 million unique visitors use their site through whether it's a mobile phone, whether it's an iPad, whether it's a computer, every day. So if you think about that around the globe, the connections, how when you're storing all that data on it, where does that data go? How does it get to the right person? How is it protected? It's actually massive, a very complex problem. And then, if you go to the next slide, the amazing thing about it is it's not just Facebook. This is where social media is really exploding. These are just two examples I did. So if you look at that curve back on Facebook earlier, it took them a long time to get to 10 million. Google Plus did 10 million in about 2 or 3 months. If you look at where they're on pace right now, is if they actually stay on the pace they're at now, I think I read, they'll be at 400 million users by the end of this year. Then a kind of social media application startup that's got a lot of interest, at least Pinterest. I'll be honest, I never even heard of them about 8-10 weeks ago. Even though my wife happened to mention, I just got on this new site with some friends, everything else. And the next thing you know, I'm reading about them in all the tech press and everything else. And they actually got to, from nothing to now they're actually over 10 million in about 6 months. And these are just 2 examples. And all these social media sites, all these applications, they're exploding all over the world. And they're going to need companies like us, companies like Microsoft, and then technology tools to be able to deliver this. Because I think if you've all gone through this, the other thing about this for whether these platforms are successful or not is, not only are they up, but are they fast, are they reliable, are they safe? And, if you go to a site and whether it's on your phone, whether it's Twitter, and it's always crashing, you're not going to go back. So it's companies that are doing social media, so they're looking where they're going to put their advertising dollars, and how they're going to leverage it. It's important that they know that it's on a reliable platform and moves forward. Next slide, please. And again, so if you think about it, it all comes down to being connected on the internet and how you do it, right? So if you think about some of these examples, Google's apps, they're dependent on all the data that's stored. Basically, all this stuff is on demand. They're not really on hard drives anymore. All this stuff is in data centers around the world. Think about from the storage capacity even. So I think there was a stat, I'm not sure if it's completely accurate, but I know in the ballpark. I think that there's going to be more digital storage created this year. So this is purely created data that will be taken and stored that was in the world in total in 2005. So if you think about, and that's just being created this year. And that's so when we all upload our pictures, when we all do our connections, all the new apps, when you're now moving all this stuff where you're storing backups, when you're using iCloud, iTunes, all this type of stuff, it creates actually a massive technology issue that again can only really be solved and delivered in the manner that we all like, which is kind of on demand, unlimited, and at a value that we can all understand, is if you get scale. And that's what cloud's all about. Next slide, please. So really, again, just to kind of, sum up where we see it going and the ties with cloud and social media, even strengthening to make social media work. It's really about, 5 things right now that, companies like us have to deliver social media, platforms. And that as people think about getting into social media type applications and those type, they have to understand. I mentioned scale before. It's got to be able to, scale rapidly. You saw those charts. If you do get something where you have this much demand, you actually need to be able to have the capacity to serve it. Based on that too, again, stuff that we do is not cheap to do, right? So last year we spent, I think, $400 to $500 million US on servers and data centers for our customers, right? So we have to go buy all that stuff and provide it. If you were doing that as a company, that's really expensive to do on your own. The fact that we're actually able to parcel that out and let them use it on demand, they actually need peak capacity, which means they need to be able to pay for what they use when they need it. So if they do get 100 million users one day, they can actually spike up and do it. But if the next 2 days, because that event's over, they're down to 10 million, they're only paying for 10 million. So that's the other reason too why cloud will absolutely be a driver if given the right tools for social media. And this other concept, federated, I think is really interesting. If you look at a lot of things coming out lately, and what this is about is really, if you look at social media, if you look at any of these tools, they're global. The problem is if you look at internet regulations, how it works, they're not global. And data privacy and all those things. So if you look at it, companies like Facebook, anyone who's actually doing a global social media platform, Twitter, they're now starting to think about, okay, how do I actually store data in Hong Kong to comply with Hong Kong data laws? How do I actually do it in Singapore? What's the laws that actually keep me compliant? And to do that, the reality is there's not a global cloud in all these places. There's not a global platform. We have something in Hong Kong, Amazon's got something in Singapore, Microsoft's got stuff around. So really the next generation, what you're seeing come out is actually all these clouds actually working together. So basically, all these companies can actually move their workloads and applications and data where they need it, either where their customers are located or due to data requirements. Data privacy, data protection is really becoming a large issue in this space. And then the other aspect is too is that you think connectivity, again, we're all using our devices all over the world, everything else. But the reality is that no matter how good networks are, they're still governed by the speed of light. So if you're trying to serve the world, you can't do it out of a data center in California, just one. You can't do it out of a data center in Singapore. You actually have to have the ability to move stuff around. So that's one of the areas that we're working on, pushing very much with some of our open source technology. And then I mentioned the storage dilemma that's coming up. We're trying to get enough storage for all this data that's being created. And then the final one is that with this data is, if you look at, I think, the power of social media, and Jay and I were actually speaking about this a little bit earlier, it's really about how do you analyze this? How do you actually understand what's going on? Where's the value? And having a tool set that makes this data easily sortable, that makes this data easily accessible, where you can actually figure out what are the trends, what are the patterns, how do you measure it, how do you deliver it back, and building a system that's very easy to do is really an important step.